Hey, good afternoon everybody. 1st of October 2021. Just a very brief comment right now, and I may make a more detailed video at another time, but just a couple of options and a couple of ideas, let's say, for Sydney Brisbane and Sydney Melbourne when things all clear up and get a new train sets coming in, probably in 2023. I don't think they'll be ready much yet next year, but there may be some cars. There have been persistent rumours that there'll be a daylight only service, in other words from Sydney to Melbourne and Sydney to Brisbane. One would hope that they'd be decent sized trains, in other words a 10-car train on each service, 2 sets dedicated to each service, both all by day, which would be an improvement actually on the Brisbane route, because it would be about a 7:30 a.m. departure from both cities. But my idea is to reactivate the Southern Aurora trains, the sleeping car trains between Sydney and Melbourne. But while we're at it, so to speak, I would look at a new version of the Brisbane Limited overnight sleeping car train, both of which, by the way, both train services would leave around about 8 p.m. from each city. In other words, they'd be not interfering with the peak hour train services, and it'd be a sensible time, like in the case of Southern Aurora, as it always was, in other words, at 8 p.m. out of Sydney and Melbourne, with 9 a.m. arrival in the opposite city. And of course, with the Brisbane line, it'd be a little different. It'd be instead of 12, it'll be roughly around about a 14-hour trip. So you're looking at 8 p.m. to get and arrive at the opposite end of the line at around about 10 a.m. Now that'd be very, very attractive for most people. And one of the ideas I have is to use, well, of course, the first class twinette and roomette cars of the Southern Aurora, in other words a dining and lounge car, and you'd have a couple of economy class sleepers actually included in that consist on both trains. And the economy class sleepers would be in storage at the moment or over in Adelaide, but there's no reason why they can't be cleaned up, in other words done up and reactivated. So providing a twice-a-day service on both lines would be pretty good, and something around the middle of the day might be possible from Sydney down towards, say, Griffith would be one example, and maybe the Grafton service could still continue operating, but using the current cars that are on the routes from Sydney up to Armidale and Moree. In other words, you're looking at Explorer type cars for the time being, maybe only a 3-car train with a buffet. And that would give you a daily service in the morning, early afternoon, around say midday, and 8 p.m. So each of those lines would get 3 services, but the midday services would only run a shorter distance. In other words, I just said Sydney to Grafton and Sydney to Griffith, for example. They're just ideas, and we could expand on that later with a longer video, but I just thought I'd put those thoughts to everybody, and I welcome civil and polite replies. So thanks for viewing.